you very much, Presiding Officer, and I'm pleased to be able to stand and rise in this debate. I'm going to address it and try and put some flesh on the bones, because I spent a huge amount of time as the convener of the REC Committee looking at the procurement of 801, 802, and I had the privilege, or if you call it a privilege, to have seen most of the BBC documents on which the programme was produced last night. I'm first of all going to start off by talking about the contract bid. Let's be clear about this. What happened was CalMac gave their requirements to CMAL, and these were quite considerable requirements, 400-odd pages actually, and they weren't all perfect. In fact, some of them were strange, in the sense that CalMac asked for passenger ferries, cabins, and there were to be no passenger ferry cabins on these ferries, but there it was in there. And then this document was distilled down into a 350-page document, which formed the basis of Ferguson's bid. Interesting, if you look through it, and those of you that could flick through it quickly as the BBC were showing it, there seemed to be single words that had changed. And those single words were the word should to will. So CalMac said it should have this, and Ferguson said it will have this. Now, that's not really very clever, but what isn't clever also is duplicating the errors that there were within the original contract. So they put in the fact that there would be passenger cabins on the ferry, although we know that was never part of it. What we also found out as part of that tender process, that the boat that was put forward by Ferguson's was overpriced and overweight. What I don't understand, and I will fail to understand till the day I die, was why no one picked this up. Why did no one not see that the biggest part of the document on what the ferry would consist of was a pure duplication? And the government are telling us they didn't know. I'm not sure I can go with that. Let's look at the builder's refund guarantee. In December 2014, Ferguson said that they would be incapable of producing a builder's refund guarantee. And they gave two reasons for it. One is that they were a new business, and secondly, that they hadn't had developed a relationship with a bank. So they said to CMAL, we can't do it in December. This is in the middle of the process. Yet they were able to continue with the process and were eventually awarded the contract with no refund guarantee. So what does that actually mean if there's no refund guarantee? That means that if everything goes wrong, one person's got to pick up the cost for that. And there's only one person who can pick up for the cost for that. It's not CMAL, it's the Scottish Government. And are you telling me the Scottish Government didn't know that they were going to be the lender of last resort when it all went wrong? Because I frankly don't believe you. I'd also point out that CMAL were particularly nervous about it, and I'm sure they mentioned it to the government because what they suggested that as Ferguson bought the parts, what they would do is become the property of CMAL. They wouldn't actually belong to Ferguson's at all. So as they paid for it during the contract, they were taking control of the parts. That's an odd thing to do. And don't tell me they didn't warn the Scottish Government. I believe they must have done. Then we got to the stage of the re-tender. Well, it was quite simple. The boat that was put forward was the wrong size, too heavy, too much cost. So what does CMAL do? They say, well, you mentioned another boat, said it was no good. We think it's an excellent boat, and we'd like you to tender on the principle of that. And that's what happened. And that's the boat that ended up being designed. And are you telling me the Scottish Government didn't know that? I don't believe that. And when it comes to the stage payments, we started off with 15 stage payments, ended up with 18. The more stage payments you have means that probably the business who are getting that stage payments are in trouble. It means that they are financially unreliable. So what happened then? Well, in 2017, March 2017, the yard was about bankrupt. So CMAL said that we'll only release part of the stage payments to the yard when they can prove each of that is paid off to the contractors who were owed money. We'll give a bit more of the stage payment. So there was CMAL trying to deliver the money to the yard to make sure the contractors got paid so the yard didn't go into receivership. And at the same time, Derek Mackay was round the back with a van, shoving £15 million into Ferguson's and then another £30 million into Ferguson's, making a mockery of it. Now, the government can claim they didn't understand that the yard was close to being bankrupt. I would ask why their ministers didn't know. But they can't claim they didn't know that their government was dishing out loans which were unsecured to Ferguson Marine. Now, let's look briefly at Tim Hare, because I'm running out of time. He cost us £2 million, interviewed on the telephone, and he came to the business with a lot of knowledge. He'd been an engineer on a cruise liner for a couple of years, never built a ship in his life. And they always say of a turnaround director, for the first 6 months of the contract, they are part of the problem. After that, they become the problem. Well, that's what's happened, and that is why we are seeing the delays to the ferries that we're seeing at the moment. So in summary, Presiding Officer, what we understand is that there were crucial financial requirements that were waived to allow only one bidder. The tender specification documents were given to only one bidder. The chance to re-tender and reduce the price was given to only one bidder. And the tender happened to be awarded to a loyal Monogas supporter. Stage payments were adapted to allow
Mr. Mountain, you're 15 seconds over your time. Could you please bring your remarks to a close, please? You're over your time, 15 seconds. Please bring your remarks to conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I will bring it to my conclusion. I don't believe the government didn't know what's going on. They knew fine well what was going on, and that this Parliament has been misled, not only in the committees but also in the Chamber. We need a public inquiry.
You're over your time. Thank you, Mr. Mountain.